Well, hey there, John.
What an ideal time for me to start coughing.
Mm-hmm.
How are you, Sam? People that watch these are going to be so confused about why you drink out of a gigantic jug.
Because it's big and I don't have to fill it up very often.
Yeah,
there you go.
You know, it's horrifying, honestly. I hate everything about it.
Welcome to the second episode. Kind of the third.
Yeah. Well,
the first one was episode 0.
Yeah,
so welcome to episode 2 of Sam and John's Book Club, where we get to be wonderful, well-read, learned individuals.
Two learned boys.
Yep, we are reading through Brandon Sanderson's first book in the Stormlight Archive series, The Way of Kings. And as of today, Tuesday,
the day it currently is
the 18th, we've just finished part 1. Hot dog. Look at all the stuff we're saying.
Yeah, this is amazing.
How cool is that? All right. And last time we made a bit of a whoopsie daisy where we just summarized the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
And I think that unfortunately, due to our nature as human beings, is going to be more or less unavoidable. But this time, maybe we can just do it deliberately. Let's just summarize it really fast.
Really?
Get the summary out of the way.
Okay, sure.
Right off the bat.
When I was taking notes, I was like not really trying to remind myself of things that happened, but I was like, here's things to discuss, kind of. And I didn't take any notes last time, so maybe this will help my recall of the events as well, you know.
Yeah. I've got a couple of pages of notes this time.
Yeah, I got one good scroll.
Okay, let's just book it through a quick summary and get that out of the way.
All right.
And we can pretend it never happened and get some actual good book talk.
Right. So this was chapter 6 through 11, which was the end of part 1.
Yep.
So let's see what happens. Chapter 6 is where Kaladin joins Bridge 4.
Bridge 4.
Becomes a bridgeman. Bridgeman.
Which is literally worse than hell.
Yeah, it sounds like awful, but we'll get to that later. Summary. So.
Yep. He joins this bridge. He meets a mean boy named Gaz.
Gaz.
Yep. Who is he's like this sergeant who has no chance of moving upwards, right? So he's just mean
His
and
whole
cruel.
Thing is just he abuses the little amount of power he has, basically.
Yep. And he is in charge of all of these bridge crews who have to run bridges in front of High Prince Sadius's army, right?
Because the battlefield they're on is a bunch of disconnected plateaus, it kind of sounds like.
Yep. So they run with these bridges and they lay it down between plateaus so the entire army can cross, and then they jog back up around the army with their bridge again. Yeah, they get to the other side, they pull the bridge over. They run around the army carrying this bridge on their shoulders, and if you're in the back or in the middle, you can't see where you're going because it takes 40 people to carry this in 8 rows of 5.
Yeah.
And it just sounds sucks.
Yeah,
but that's
really
not
terrible.
even the worst part, because then eventually you get up to the plateau where today's battle is happening.
The front lines.
And all the bridge people just gotta run. They just gotta run at all the Parshendi who are shooting them with arrows.
Right, and they're targeting the bridgemen so that the bridges will fall over so they can't get over the chasm to fight them.
Yeah, and Kaladin asks later on, hey, could we have someone run out front with shields? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
And everyone's like, no, shut up. If you ask again, I'm literally gonna punish you.
You're lower than dirt.
I'm gonna throw you out in one of those high storms that, as we discussed last time, are deadly.
Real
right?
bad, yeah.
And that's just that's the world he's living in right now. So he's running bridges, very fun, very fun. Oh, the spren that's following him has a name.
Right.
It's not like he names her. He says, "Do you have a name?" She's like, "Oh, I guess I did have a name. Yeah, I'm Silfrena." So there we go. We did that.
Sil for short.
Yep.
Then the next chapter is about Shallan.
Yes.
And so this is where she's drawing all the pictures of the day while she's waiting in.
Yep.
The little reading nook.
She's in the reading nook.
Yasna.
Yep. She meets what's his name?
Oh, Cabsol.
Cabsol.
The Ardent.
Ardent Cabsol. Yep.
Is that how that's pronounced?
Sure.
Great.
We hear memories about the phrasing exactly was her memories assaulted her, and we heard about a guy called Non-Balat who was bruised in this memory. Also about a long silvery sword in her hand, sharp enough to cut stone as if it were water.
Oh yeah.
What swords do we know that can do that sort of thing? Also, by the way, I think that might have come up later. Oh well, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's totally just like a human camera. Like she was literally taking those things. I was like, oh, photographic memory. She was just like recreating those exact moments on paper.
That was a big deal.
So that was kind of fun. Yeah, she did some art, met Capsule, Ardents are servants of the Almighty, yada yada.
Yeah, that's pretty much that chapter.
Yeah.
And then in chapter 8, that's when Yasna comes back to the little reading nook.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, get out of my sight. Didn't I tell you to leave? Get out of here. And she's like, okay, bye.
Sorry.
Yeah, and then she runs off and she's like, hey, come on back. Hey, sorry I was so angry with you.
Yep. Eventually,
that wasn't fair.
After a series of events, says, you know what? You can be my ward.
Once you really patch up your knowledge or whatever.
Well, sure. I skipped ahead a little bit. She buys some books, comes back. Okay, now you can be my ward.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. That was a great chapter. Yeah, I love that one. Good job, Shalon. Really happy for you.
Yeah, great day.
Okay, now we're back at Bridge 4.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man. This is kind of the first part of the book. It's like if we were to look at Kaladin's character arc, it would start out up pretty high, I would say, and then just plummet, and it's hit the bottom. And then, actually, it turns out that was a false bottom, and it can plummet farther. We need another couple of sheets of paper to put down below this one so the graph can keep going down.
Yeah, this is like where we're like, is Kaladin's story just the metamorphosis? Is it just going to keep getting worse the whole time? And then
Very obscure reference to a book you haven't actually read.
I have read
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's bad. I didn't like it.
What's the name of the author?
Is it Franz Kafka, I think?
I think it's Kafka, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
everything is just
more
going
or less
horrible.
Yeah. Oh, and Syl leaves.
It turns out Bridge 4 has the highest casualty rate of all the bridges. Yeah, his one friend in the world leaves him. She's like, man, like watching
Your life is too depressing. Yeah.
I've got to get out of here.
I'll try to come back if I can, but I have really no promises.
Yeah. Some kid joins the bridge crew, and he's like, oh my god, he reminds me of Tian, who we do finally learn is Kaladin's brother, who is dead.
Right.
So, bummer.
Yeah.
And then we get a flashback chapter. This is fun.
Yeah,
9 years in the past. Kaladin is 10, goes by Cal back then.
He doesn't like his full name.
And it turns out that for 2 years now, he's been an apprentice to his father, who is the town surgeon for a town called Hearthstone.
Yeah, which I thought was very
Which
funny.
is a game we both used to play a lot of.
A
so
whole
that's
bunch
fun.
of yeah. My very first note is just a bullet point that says Hearthstone.
Heck yeah. His dad's name is Lirin. He has a sphere full of bromes on loan from the landlord. So we know that Hearthstone's landlord's a cool dude.
Nice guy.
And that's for lighting purposes, you know.
Yep.
His dad seems to be a fan of the heralds. They were sent to teach mankind. They gave people such wonderful wisdom as death, spren, and rot spren fear water. Right. So they taught people some things about,
some good basic medical stuff.
Yeah.
In relation to spren, which is kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. And we finally get on to the last chapter of the thingy.
Very hopeful
in which
chapter.
Kaladin is like, you know what, I'm going to go kill myself. And he goes off determined to kill himself. He's going to jump into a chasm.
Yep, the honor chasm.
He actually steps 1 foot off of it, and then Syl comes back. She's like, "Oh, Kaladin, hey, I brought you a poison leaf. Hey,
life's worth living, don't you think?" And he's like, "Maybe you're right." She's like, "It cannot get any worse."
Yeah. She's like, "Well, you haven't been trying. You could try." And he's like, "There's no point to trying. Right. Everyone's gonna die."
On that graph, we've now reached the bottom, and it's just like flatlined.
Exactly. And Syl's like, "Well, if everyone's gonna die, and that's like the standard case scenario." You can't really make things worse.
Any amount of effort probably makes it better.
You might as well just give it one more go for me. And he's like,
"Oh,
you know, you're kind of right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I really can't make anything worse." So Kaladin goes and he beats up Gaz a little bit.
Right, yeah. And like choke slams him into the ground.
Yeah, and now he's gonna try his darndest to actually save some lives.
Right. And he's bribing Gaz to put him in positions where he will not die so he can keep doing that.
It turns out Metamorphosis had a sequel.
Yeah.
In which things may get better.
Thanks,
so that's really exciting. I love how Brandon Sanderson, you know, he just writes fun characters sometimes who get put in terrible situations. And then they overcome adversity to do
And I'm
great
like,
things,
I wish Brando Sanda was writing my life so I could get out of this terrible situation.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. He's done it a couple of times now. What was the book that had the symbols you had to draw to do magic? Elantris. It was like in Elantris, right? That was one where, you know, the situation is like so terrible and awful. and then your character comes in and kind of makes
Rallies
makes
the
a good thing out of
troops.
nothing.
Yeah.
And it's he's done it a couple of times, but I just love it every time. It's
Yeah,
like
it's very.
those are my favorite parts of his books.
Right.
Often.
Well, it's like that's the Cinderella story formula,
Yeah.
You take put them in a shitty situation and they just make the best of it and it's happy ever after.
Yeah,
Everybody loves that.
I feel like he's gonna have to keep one-upping himself, right? Making characters who are in even worse situations
and even terrible
do even better things
situations.
out of it. Yeah. So eventually, we're gonna have a character who starts out just like they're born right into a giant baby death pit,
Yeah.
and they land among the corpses of all these other
babies. But
babies.
they have 2 extra arms and their mind is bigger than a hippo.
Yeah.
The ideal human.
And they have to feed on just cockroaches for the first 15 years of their life.
Yeah.
They never see the sun. They never feel the touch
Everybody
of a
they
human.
ever meet hates them for no good reason.
Yeah, and they always slap them in the face. Everyone just calls them Slappy to remind themselves that they're supposed to slap them when they see them.
Right, they're like, hey, Slappy, and it's like one of those Russian competitions, and they just deck them in one slap.
Yeah, it's like one of those competitions, except there's only one slapper.
Right,
and only one slappee.
Yeah.
Thus the name.
Right.
All right.
Oh my God. All right. Anyway.
Okay, we summarized it.
All right.
There we go. That brings us to the end of part 1. So now let's discuss some things. Let's talk about what you read and what you thought was like, oh wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Or let's.
I actually did write some things like, oh, this is a big deal.
Okay. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
And just some quotes and things. So yeah, I'll just kind of go through. We can go maybe a chapter at a time or something.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that the fact that Parshmen, this is explicitly said, are on both sides of the conflict. So we know Parshendi and Parshmen aren't the same thing, but I was like, oh, that is kind of weird that the Alendi, is that the other side of the war?
The Alethi and
Alethi,
the Parshendi, yeah.
That's right. I always say Alendi, yeah. That they also have Parshmen working in their war camps and everything. And they were sending them out to battle, that would just be wild. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I wrote, as soon as I found out that there was a bridge leader, I wrote, Kaladin is definitely going to be the bridge leader. That's where I thought that was going. But, kind of got around to it eventually. Their anticipation sprint, which was the tiniest little detail, but I was like, how stressful would that be if you're just in a normal situation and anticipation sprint just start popping up and you're like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that the Death Spren and Rot Spren are mentioned in the later chapters, I was like, how big of a deal are these,
Yeah. It makes me wonder, are Spren ever giveaways? We had a scene where a guy was gambling and he was cheating some guards, right?
Yeah.
Would there ever be, you're playing poker and you
Right.
get a really good hand and suddenly, excitement Spren start popping up around your head?
Or bluffing Spren, yeah. It's I wonder how, because, we've seen a practical use for them in, a scientific way. So, I don't know. Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see, what they develop into. Let's see. This was kind of an interesting thing about Kaladin. He didn't actually do this, but when he arrives at the front lines the very first time and everybody's getting shot, his friend, the leathery-faced dude, dies.
Yeah.
And, even after he's, had the worst day of his life or whatever and nearly dies, he's like, nah, maybe I could go back and save that guy.
Oh,
and that just, keeps happening with people. Yeah.
He had a quote in that first chapter as well, chapter 6, right?
Yeah.
They could do nothing more to him. That was before he'd even reached the front lines.
Oh, no.
That was before they started running the bridge.
Yeah.
So that was hilarious.
The quote I had from this chapter, which I just thought was really funny, was when Syl says, "That's amusing. It appears I have a nickname."
Oh,
She's
yeah.
I go by Syl, and I was just it's weird that she doesn't, she's learning it as we are, which is kind of fun.
He mentions the name Laurel. He says when it's that lady who's actually bargaining to buy the slaves, right? The high lady, right?
Yep.
He says she looked much as Laurel had. Who's Laurel? I don't think we've heard that name.
Didn't even notice that.
In the rest of part 1, so who knows?
Yeah.
We're given the name of another bridge crew leader named Lamarel. Lamarel?
Okay. I think I remember.
So I don't think he's really come up more. The lady who did look like Laurel is apparently called Brightness Hashal. Don't know if she's a big deal.
Yeah.
Who's to say? They did see a shard bearer of Sadeas' army crossing their bridge,
Yep.
and he was wearing burnished red shard plates. So maybe he'll come up again.
Yeah.
we hear about Bright Lord Dalinar's army, the king's uncle, the best of men, the most honorable shard bearer in the king's army. People are talking of Dalinar, and remember, we saw him in the very first chapter.
Right, yeah.
He was drunk. Or,
Yeah.
I guess this was the prologue, actually, we saw him in.
Yep.
Not to be confused with the prelude.
Right. And the king, his like dying words in the prologue were to his brother.
They were to Dalinar,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which were
To this guy, yeah.
find the most important words a man can say.
Right.
So,
And his crew does not even use Bridgeman, apparently.
Yep, because he's just so friggin' cool.
What a great guy.
They say he's never broken his word.
Oh yeah, just high praises.
And when they finally reach that first, the first actual like plateau a battle is happening on, Sadeas' army does win that battle, and Kaladin is saying like, oh, what are we even fighting for, you know? And he sees them cracking open some sort of like organic chrysalis,
Right,
which
yeah.
later, and I think in the like second to last chapter of the reading or something, he says that there were like gemstones inside.
Right. And then like it was the same type of plant that looked like rocks or something, but this was just a real big version. Is that the case? I can't remember what
I don't know exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
Seems like that's what the situation was, but
I don't remember all of the details.
right.
Okay, there was a quote at the beginning. I really like the quotes at the beginning of each chapter.
Yeah,
the ones that are from the death rattles, right?
Yeah.
They are the flame. They burn. They bring the darkness when they come.
Ooh.
Lots of really ominous stuff
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on in these quotes.
No, I started paying more attention to those, especially since you like mentioned them a bunch in the first 5. I was like, some of them I'm like, oh yeah, what the hell?
Well, the thing is, these are things that I didn't pay much attention to my first listen to.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah, they kind of
Right.
just like passed through. They were like a little bit poetic, and I was like,
whatever.
Who knows how important those are?
Yeah.
And like by the time I was done, I wished I had paid close attention to them because
Sure.
I kept thinking like I bet those like actually really ended up.
And they're like
coming
very
hot.
prominently featured, you know, like they look really neat in the actual print version. So.
Yeah. We learned that Shallan's family's wealth came from marble deposits that he was creating with this soulcaster that ended up breaking, and that's her plan is now to steal Shallan's. Somebody actually commented on our first YouTube video. Connor,
okay.
thank you, Connor.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that like, yeah, Shallan's smart, but like, there must have been some plan to save her family that didn't involve tricking and robbing the most powerful woman in the world.
You'd think,
right?
Yeah.
Like that's got to be a blunder.
This has got to be a couple letters down. Like this is Plan E.
Like
at
I
least.
understand that Brandon Sanderson wanted to bring these characters
Right.
together,
High
but
tension.
yeah, this is
That's a good point,
That was a
yeah.
little wacky. Also, Shallan has deep red hair.
Yeah.
This is something like I didn't picture her with deep red hair,
Oh,
but
they
she has
mentioned
deep
that
red
in
hair.
her first, the chapter where she's introduced.
Well, would
yeah.
you look at that? Even through reading the first 3 books, I never really pictured her with deep red hair. But,
Oh wow, yeah, I guess.
But here we are.
Yeah.
Bromes. We learned the name of another level of currency. We have chips.
Oh, yep.
The middle ones, marks.
Yep.
And bromes are, I think, the top. I think it's just those 3.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. Cool beans. We
Yeah.
heard Roshar in relation to this library in Kharbranth being like the greatest collection of knowledge in Roshar.
Right.
Is Roshar the continent? Is Roshar the whole planet?
Right.
I don't know, but
Sounds
it's
like the whole thing.
it contains
something else,
Kharbranth.
yeah. Right, yeah.
So,
All right, so this, I don't know why I'm like so hung up on Spren, but I have a couple notes about Spren from this
Okay.
chapter as well. So creation Spren sound lit, right?
Yeah.
They're just like, they take the form of objects, but not doing what those objects normally do necessarily, like a table, but it just like rolls around.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds kind of fun. And then this was something we talked about last time that they directly referenced. Like other Spren, they were said to always be around, but usually invisible.
Usually invisible. Yeah, I caught that as well.
Yeah, so they just like, they're around and then they show up when whatever emotion or whatever like evokes them, I guess. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Anything else from that chapter for you?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of mentioned it in the summary, but the photographic memory thing, like, that's serious. That's not just like, oh yeah, you know, I have a good memory. It's like literally photographic.
And we also learned that she's just like a total prodigy artist. No formal training.
Yeah.
She's just like top tier, you know.
Taught herself by reading a book of like an old master or whatever.
Yeah, too good. Not even fair.
Oh, and I thought this was kind of funny. Like, we get little snapshots of like, not exactly how her father died, but we know that that's happened. But there was like one point where she like was thinking about her father's death, and she was like, "No, Shallan, don't bring back the pain." And I was like, "All right,
like, come
Brandon
on,
Sanderson."
yeah.
A bit of an excuse there. I wrote, "Quote: Don't think about your father's death, Shallan. It's traumatic and info we can't let the readers have yet."
Yeah.
Also, Cab saw the ardent priest guy. Seemed pretty cool. He
seems pretty cool. He's like, don't you dare respect me.
Right,
and she's like, fine, okay, I won't.
Yeah. He's like, I'll dance on this table. Think of how weird that'll make me look.
And now I guess he owes her jam. So
right, yeah.
If he doesn't deliver on that, I'll be upset.
Yeah.
Okay, another quote from the beginning of a chapter.
Yep, and I thought this one was particularly notable.
Victory. We scatter them. Their lands become our farms, etc. They shall burn as we did.
All right. He's like going full Genghis Khan and then dies 18 seconds later.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world? Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Bummer.
I just wonder, are these quotes, do you think, that people uttered in the past or that will be uttered in the future?
Oh. Well, I assume this is all like... My assumption is like this is all stuff people said right before the most recent desolation.
Oh, these are samples collected like a long time ago, and now somebody's reading them in the present day?
But I'm like, who was around to like get all these in a book or whatever?
Yeah.
And I mean, it could be something that comes up with the desolation that's bound to happen now that the dudes from the Prelude won't stop it or whatever. So I guess that's possible. But yeah, I always assume it's like in the past.
Okay. The thing is that even the people saying them, it has notes on like who said it, and it's normally just like a farmer,
right?
Like somebody who would not be saying this thing,
a spinstress,
under normal circumstances,
right? Also, just as of note, as we got to chapter 8, now I'm in new territory. I'd read up to chapter 7 in my first read through.
Oh, so now we're getting stuff you actually have never experienced.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
Well, hot dog.
I was like, when's that priest guy coming up? That's the last thing I remember.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
for a capsule.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. In this chapter, we also learned a couple of little things. Her father's study, Shallan's father's study, was full of strange maps. Helleran, her oldest brother, had known more about her father's mysterious plans, but he'd vanished over a year ago, and her father had proclaimed him dead.
Right.
So I guess he left on bad terms.
And I wrote in here, Shallan's brother Helleran is totes alive somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, he vanished. Okay, yeah. Presumed dead, sure.
And then there was a quote... And the secret she now carried, hidden 10 heartbeats away.
Yeah, I was like, okay, all right.
What
she got
do we know
blade.
that takes 10 heartbeats to appear?
I was like, I was reading that and I was like, wait, really? Like, I read that part a couple times. I was like, okay, sure.
So
that's fine.
Shallan, I think, just has a shard blade lying around.
But doesn't use it.
But it's a secret, and it's tied to her dark and mysterious past, TM. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Random little note here, going back to the Bromes. It sounds to me like they have lanterns that they just fill with money, for light. I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah, and when we were talking about the sphere filled with bromes in Kaladin's dad's surgery room, it was saying that bromes don't flicker. It's a constant light, unlike a flame.
Oh,
so for something where you need, to be able to see what you're doing really clearly, it's just a better alternative.
Yeah, and when they mentioned that, I pictured it as like a dentist light. I was like, oh, he needs
big
old medical light or whatever. Yeah. I thought this is the chapter where she buys all the books. Yeah.
Yeah.
When Yalb comes in, and he's just like acting out. He's like, "Come back to my store where we offered you better," and just like nailed that. I was like, "Oh, that was kind of fun."
Oh yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
And he was like gambling and everything, and he was like, I cheated. She was like, you cheated? And he was like, well, hey, all right, we're not quite all the way away yet.
Yeah, hey, cool it with the yelling, huh?
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, she got mad at him. She was saying that he shouldn't gamble because he shouldn't try to guess the future.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
We learned there are 5 Vorin kingdoms as well.
Sure.
Well, there was a book that was about the 5 Vorin kingdoms,
right.
and she was like, I thought they were 4 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
she also wrote a prayer of thanks, which she'd burn later.
Yeah, that was kind of
So I was like,
cool.
I guess that's how people pray.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that was the last note. I was like, they burn written prayers. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, next chapter.
Yeah.
10?
This, 9.
Do you want to read this one? Oh, sorry.
Sure.
10 is the first word of the quote at the beginning of the chapter.
Sure. I'll read this one.
All right, go ahead.
Give it a spooky storyteller voice. Oh, jeez, but now I gotta go find it.
I'll read it. 10 people with shard blades alight, standing before a wall of black and white and red.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds Parshendi.
So black and red, yeah, that's the color of the Parshendi skin. That's what I thought as
yeah.
well. 10 people with shard blades alight, standing before a wall.
Did you have who said it? Because I feel like that was like...
No, I did not.
I'll see if I can find it.
I honestly have not been paying any attention to who said it or how they died.
Okay, you say other things while I go find that, because I think
Okay.
that was important to me for some reason.
Bridge 4 is the highest casualty rate. We already covered that. On average, normal bridges, like your average bridge, loses 1/3 to 1/2 of its men per run.
You're right, yeah.
Holy moly. So, like, a ton of people are dying in these bridge
Yeah,
runs.
it's like basically a death sentence.
Kaladin's been at this for 2 or 3 weeks now. He's just, like, somehow surviving every run while everyone else dies around him. Like, literally, he said that out of all of the people who've been on his first bridge crew, all of them are dead except one guy, and then he dies.
Right, yeah.
So...
Okay,
Heck.
so I found who said this, and this is why I thought it was more, like, important. So,
Yeah.
12 seconds pre-death subject, one of our own Ardents overheard during his last moments. Whose own Ardents?
Okay.
So I was like, that's like the most significant person, I think, that's said something in one of these
Sure.
dealios, yeah.
This is where, Chrysalis is jugs inside. If they get there first, this is something he said. If the bridges get there first, like before the Parshendi, then nobody dies.
Right, it's easy, yeah, because there's nobody firing at the bridgeman.
And if they get there too late and another High Prince's army has already arrived, Sadis' army will not participate in the conflict, so they'll also all live.
Right.
And Kaladin later says stuff about, like, why are we even fighting? Like, is this just some grand game and we, the lowly pieces, aren't allowed to understand?
Right,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
He says, like, why don't we chase the Parshendi when they flee, right?
Sure, yeah.
And it is all kind of interesting,
Yeah, it's
right?
weird,
Like they're just. It seems like these chrysalises are appearing somehow, right?
Yeah.
That are full of gems.
Right, and they're just going to...
And people are, like, somehow spotting them. So then this horn is getting blown.
Right.
And then
They're just
then
racing.
the High Prince armies and the Parshendi are all just racing to where they appear.
Right.
And it's just like a game. They're just
Yeah,
fighting
super
over
weird,
these money rocks.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
So,
super strange.
So yeah, Kaladin says, please let us do shields out front. No.
Yeah.
You just got to get shot. That's life, kid.
Right, yeah. Being a bridgeman's hell, deal with it.
Yeah, so yikes. His dad said there are 2 types of people in the
Yeah.
world, those who take lives and those who save them.
Yeah.
Kaladin was like, actually, there's a third type of people.
Yeah.
Those who take lives to save the lives of others.
Right.
Right?
But then he changes his mind to the third group is just the ones that are saved or killed.
Yeah, people who have no control
Right.
over their
Or
own
just-
lives.
Yeah, I was like,
They're simply victims who may be saved
Right.
if somebody finds it in their good graces.
Yeah, I
right?
was like, hey, a motivational speaker would be very upset with that attitude.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I thought that was like the most. This was like I was getting very tired at this point.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I was like very focused on that like thing. I was like 2 groups, the whole deal.
Yeah. Do you agree with that? How many groups of people do you
Yeah,
think
I
there
was
are?
thinking about that. I was like, how would I separate that? Yeah,
Because
so
that's kind of in line with what's his name's Hippocrates law, right? Do no harm.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So
I mean, yeah.
if you follow that law, a lot of doctors do subscribe to that, right? And they would never, right, because of that law, kill someone if it meant saving somebody else,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, the 2 groups only people that like save or kill. I'm like, that's pretty broad, you know. I don't know if that's necessarily. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense for, like, yeah, if you're a doctor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all kind of part of the discussion. Like, do the ends justify the means, right?
No, sure, yeah.
So there are some people who would say no. If you come to a good conclusion, but you get there in a bad way, right?
Yeah.
You're just as bad as people doing bad things for bad reasons, right?
Yeah.
And those people would say certainly no. You can just never kill people. If you have to kill someone to save someone else, you need to find another way. And if you can't, c'est la vie, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
Like, holy moly, that's kind of extreme.
Yeah.
It's like with pacifism, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
A lot of people, I've met a lot of people, especially in college. Everyone was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I'm a pacifist,"
Right.
and I was like, "Oh really?"
Yeah.
Like if somebody like attacked you, you wouldn't fight back?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh no, I would fight
would,
back." And I'm like, "Oh, so you just
Don't fight people for the fun
just
of it.
like every other human, you don't believe in
Right, yeah.
senseless violence. Okay, you're,
Yeah.
you're not a psychopath, is what you're saying.
I literally, not even because of the book, thought about it. I was like, a lot of people in college said they were pacifists, and that didn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make sense because
days ago,
I can think of a lot of reasons why I would hurt another person.
Sure.
Right? Like tons of them.
Right,
Like
yeah,
I could start a list right now. Like they're kicking my dog, you know, and just go
Right,
down.
yeah,
and
yeah.
I could come up with reasons for hours, right? Where I
Right,
would
yeah, yeah.
hurt another human.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm totally of the mind where like, yeah, sometimes you got to hurt people to help other people,
Yeah, I agree
right?
with
That's
that,
just
yeah.
that's how it be. But
Carrying around a water bottle, I'm like, if somebody tried to mug me, I could swing this at him like a baseball bat.
yeah. But
you know?
Kaladin's
It's
dad,
just, like, it's a thing.
Kaladin's dad says, nah, fam.
Right.
You either save lives or you take them.
Right, which seems like, yeah, that's insane. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But
And then the middle thing, obviously, the two, like, can you kill people to save other people? I mean, that's...
I say yes.
I think you can, yeah.
I say yes.
And then the third group of his, what he revises it to, that, you know, some people are just helpless. I'm like, all right, hey, buddy, chin up, you know?
Yeah, that was a pretty fatalist sort of
Yeah.
spin on things.
I was like, you're being real edgy again. I get that life is literally the worst.
Is
but...
it true? Are some people just pawns? No,
I don't think so.
No. I think everybody's the main character of their own story in some way or another.
I think that a lot of people do have like a sort of a victim's mindset, and they don't focus on the things they can control.
Yes,
but that's
yeah.
not because they don't have things they can control.
Some people, yeah, do have victim complexes.
Right, yeah,
but
that's the word I
it's
wanted.
just
Yeah, but it's not because they don't have anything they can
no.
control.
I don't think anybody's literally just a pawn
Right.
or an NPC, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own stuff going on, and it may
Right.
seem unimportant to you, but
Right. Yeah.
right, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And then this was also the chapter where Syl leaves, and I was very sad. I was like very emotional about this. I was like, oh, geez, I need to go to sleep.
Yeah, and we also heard that if you survive 100 bridge runs, you'll be released.
Oh yeah, as
But
like
that was probably just a rumor, he
right,
said.
a little drop of hope to keep him going, maybe.
Yeah. All right, next chapter.
Yes, this is the flashback chapter.
His dad is named Lirin,
Yep.
and actually during the summary, I think we kind of went over everything I thought was interesting in this chapter.
Okay, I got a couple things.
Oh, his dad thinks Voidbringers aren't real. There you go.
Yep.
That was the other thing.
Yeah, he talks about the heralds and the Knights Radiant, and the heralds were like, yeah, we talked about them in the summary, and they sent they founded the Knights Radiant,
Oh, yes.
and then the Knights Radiant betrayed everybody. So says Lirin.
Yes, the Radiants were ordered, founded by the Heralds, who betrayed us after the Heralds left.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, good to know.
Okay.
And then the other thing, because I'm really fixated on Spren, Death Spren cannot be seen. I was just sitting there somewhere.
What?
Yeah, his dad was like, because Death Spren can't be seen.
Yeah.
I'll double check that, but
What? How do we know they exist? If they can't be seen?
that's a good
Because,
question.
I mean, you're never like, oh yeah, air conditioning Spren can't be seen. You know?
Maybe it was like,
Like-
maybe it was they can't be seen before somebody dies.
Lima beans Spren. No, they exist.
Right.
No, they do.
There's a Spren for everything.
Yeah.
All right, I'll double check that and I'll bring it up next time.
No, I think they can be seen. I think you're crazy.
All right. Yeah, we learned about Tien, and then, oh, there was a bit about the legacy of a soldier versus a surgeon. You know,
Oh, yeah.
where Kaladin was like, well, I want to be a soldier because they got clout. You know.
Yeah. Nobody remembers a surgeon.
And he was like, all the people that you saved do, and that's more important.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so Kaladin wants to be a soldier instead of a surgeon.
Right.
I think that's kind of lame. I think
Yeah.
his dad is like, Kaladin, I'm telling you right now, you would be so good at this.
Right. Yeah.
Saving lives, you have a gift. I'm training you from a young age, and I'm willing to send you across the sea to train with like the best of the best
You'll
over
be way
in
better
Card
than I
Bronze.
am, and I seem pretty great.
Like you could be an awesome freaking surgeon. And Kaladin's like,
What if I killed
but my buddy over there was hitting things with a stick,
Yeah.
and that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
His dad was a soldier, and his dad's like, well, that he has a lame leg now. I've had to operate on it 3 times,
Right.
and he's like, and how cool is that?
Yeah,
Like,
he's like, "That's pretty
I could
neat."
be getting operated on 3 times.
I could have a lame leg.
Yeah.
And all the ladies would be like, "Oh, you poor guy, with
so
your lame leg." And then,
Kaladin wants to go fight,
yeah,
and as we know, he does end up
Right,
becoming
yeah.
a soldier.
Right,
So.
right, yeah. And
Yeah.
we say that worked out for him. Great decision.
Who knows?
Kaladin.
Maybe he went to Carbron to be a surgeon first, and then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
soldier thing was after.
Sure. All right, and then chapter 11.
Yes, with another fun beginning of chapter quote.
Okay, I don't remember this one.
3 of 16 ruled, but
Oh,
now the broken one reigns.
Yeah, I was like,
What?
they're just throwing like
What?
so much random.
The number
exposition.
10 I've started to expect, right?
Sure.
But 3 of 16, what could
Yeah.
that be referring to?
Right,
This
yeah.
must be something we have no prior
Yeah,
information
no
about, I
idea.
think.
And the broken one, yeah, I was like,
The
all right.
broken one reigns.
Sure.
Is that the hymn from the prelude?
Right,
The
yeah.
he, the big bad?
Oh yeah, could be.
I don't know.
It's the what's the guy in Mistborn? First Mistborn book, King dude. What's his name?
Don't remember.
Not his actual name, but his title.
The Lord Ruler. Lord Ruler.
It's
Yeah.
the Lord Ruler. Crossover.
Crossover.
Okay. So I just had a random quote from this chapter that is not important, but I just thought was fun.
Okay.
I was like, oh, Brando Sando, you silly boy. He was like, beards were like axe hound pups. Boys would dream of the day they'd get one, never realizing how annoying they could be. And I was like,
I completely missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, huh, that's kind of funny. Because I was like, I would like, to grow a beard so I don't have to shave so much. But it's probably more maintenance, and I wouldn't like it that much.
Speaking of shaving, you should consider.
Well, yeah. All right. Just insult me, why don't you?
Yeah. We learned that people leave spheres out in the storm to infuse them.
Oh yeah.
So are the high storms the source of stormlight?
I mean, yeah, it seems like that.
High storm puts stormlight in spheres, which gets sucked out by Sun Villano.
Right.
Who then uses it to kill people.
Right. Man, he must be really getting around if there's a lot of
It makes me
money.
wonder, could he just stand out in a storm and get filled with stormlight power?
It wouldn't be like too much.
Maybe he'd explode.
Oh
no.
He's a lightning rod for stormlight.
All right.
Yeah. So I was like, I read this at like 1:30ish, right?
Yeah.
In the morning. And I wrote, so bringing Kaladin to the Leaf just before he kills himself almost made me cry, probably because it's really late at night.
Yeah.
But like he like steps off or whatever, she's like, no, wait, no, I brought you the Leaf. Everything was better then. And I was like, oh, Syl.
Oh, Syl,
so
you sweet, sweet girl.
Yeah. And even Kaladin, he was like, oh, stop it, you.
And then it was all the stuff we already discussed about how Kaladin was like, all right, I will try. You're right. I can't really make things worse. Yeah. And then he learned the name of one guy, and that was Teft.
Teft, yep.
And then he was like, you know what? He was looking around at all the other people, all pathetic like, and he was like, what's up with these guys? Like, I have responsibility now.
Yeah.
So I feel cool and neat. And why are all these guys just being babies about it? Like,
yeah. So you're in hell. I mean, it can't get any worse.
Was I really like that? Yeah. He had one quote earlier. This was like before he decided to be all back up on top of the game, right?
Sure.
Where he was like, maybe I should have learned the names of some of my fellow bridge members, so that in Damnation, which I think is his word for hell, right? We could have talked about how much better it is than being in Bridge 4 together. We could have laughed, right? About how much better hell is than what we're currently doing.
Yeah, I did notice that. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this this reading.
Section,
like the first one, it was just like a lot of information, I guess. And I felt
the fire hose.
Yeah, I was like, oh geez, I don't want to miss any of this, because now that I'm going through the book my second time, I really want to make sure I get everything, right? Yeah. But this second part was just kind of fun, right? There were the scenes with the guy who was gambling and did the books, Yalb, right? And those were fun.
Yeah.
And Kaladin finally decided to get back on top of his game. That was fun. Right. And Shallan convincing Yesna to be her ward, and it worked. I was like, neat.
Yeah.
And even catching the stuff about like, does Shallan have a freaking shard blade?
Yeah.
Like, totally missed that the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The 10 heartbeat stuff, right over my head. Didn't think twice about it.
There you
right.
go.
So now I'm like, nice, and I'm just having fun with the reading.
Right. It's nice to like be to be in it. And you're like, I know enough to now that I can just enjoy it, sit on cruise, and just be along.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to continue to move forward. Honestly, the fact that we're only reading like 30,000 words a week, kind of hate it. Kind of wish we were going double time here.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah, because I just want to keep reading.
Yeah. I'm gonna like try to not read them all in one night. I mean, it's good for recall, but bad for my.
Yeah. So what I've been doing is I've just been listening to them on the Friday of the previous week, and then Monday, which is when we record, right? Later on Monday. So I've been splitting it just over those 2 days, but that leaves 3 whole days where I could be listening to a whole lot more book.
You gotta find another book to sate your hunger.
Yeah, well, I've been doing podcasts in the meantime.
Sure.
All right, so coming up, we have interludes between each part.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a thing.
And then also some chapters in the part itself. So we're always going to do interludes at the start of a part.
Okay.
So that we can always have an episode right after the end of a part before getting into those extra interludes. So we'll talk about those next time as well.
Okay.
Before we get into that, though, have your ratings of any of the characters changed from last time?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I wrote. No, I didn't. But I was like, Capsule, whatever priest guy. I was like, what would I rate him? Is Sam gonna ask?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Do you want to rate Capsule?
Yeah, he's like an 8. Love him.
Yeah, I like Capsule.
Awesome.
8. I'm fine with 8.
Shallan improved a little bit. Like I kind of liked her, and then you like talked me down a little bit, and then she like raised herself back up a little bit.
Yeah.
She's very tenacious,
For me, Shallan and Kaladin both went up a point.
Yeah, yeah.
And
he's
Syl
less edgy.
went up several points.
Oh, yeah,
You'll remember that Syl, I was like, well, the only thing interesting about her is that she's sentient, right? Like, why do I care about Syl?
Yeah.
But now Syl has a name, and she's capable of some abstract thought, and she brought Kaladin the leaf.
Yeah.
And even when she was like, well, if you're just gonna, be sad until you die, like, I'm out of here. Even that, I was like, I respect that,
right.
Like, hey, she's getting out of a toxic relationship. Good job, Syl.
Yeah,
right?
no.
But then she came back and said, and I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah,
So like,
just with the leaf, I was like, oh, you're the best.
I think I went up from like a 4 to like an 8 maybe on Syl, like all at once.
She's way up there.
Yeah,
I
so
thought
I
it was
mean,
funny too when like there was in the first few chapters he was asking like some pretty regular questions, and she was like, I don't really know, or giving like nonsensical questions, and this she's like, you used to be so brave and awesome, and like has all these abstract thoughts. I'm like, whoa.
I had another note that I forgot. I don't know how I missed it.
Yeah.
But it was that Syl had some quote about how her mind is foggy now, right? Mm-hmm. And for her to be aware of that, her mind must once have been clearer, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like, if you've been stupid your whole life, you're not going to know you're stupid. But if you used to be smart and now you're getting stupider, you're going to like be aware of it, and it's going to be awful, right? That's like, that's when your mind starts degrading. Yeah, it's like the worst, right?
Right.
So I think that for her to be aware of the fact that her mind is slow now, it must once have been fast, right?
Yeah, I'm like, is Syl just like an evolved version of the Spren? Is she like some different thing that just looks like she's
Yeah. Well, I don't know what her
different.
deal is, but I think at one point she was like better than she is now, and we see her clearly moving in that direction. I don't think that she's getting smarter than she ever was before. I think she's getting back up to where she used to be.
Yeah, I agree.
So something happened to make her stupid, useless Windspren, and now she's going back up to her height.
Right, her potential is being reached once again.
Yep. All right. Well, next Tuesday, make sure that you've read the 3 interludes in between part 1 and part 2, as well as all of the reading up through chapter 15.
Okay.
And we're going to be splitting part 2 up into 3 parts. Regrettably, because I'm looking at my phone and not my computer, I cannot easily tell you how many words this is.
I was just about to ask that.
But it looks like, if I had to quickly eyeball it, 5,000, 10,000, somewhere between 25,000 and 35,000 words.
Okay, so about what we...
It's similar. It's really similar to what we've done.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's going to be normally true.
Let me tell you, for one night, pretty good chunk. Like, it's not too long.
That should be somewhere between like 2 and 3 hours of reading for an average speed reader.
Right, yeah. Because I sat down last night at like 9:30. Yeah. No, it was like 10, and I finished at like 1:30. But I was doing stuff in between. But
sure.
I was speed reading, so.
Well, word up. Thanks for watching / listening, guys. Big thanks to our sponsors this week.
Yes.
Me and the other content I make. John and I just recently started not only this book club podcast, but also another podcast.
Our Ride or Die podcast.
Sam and John.
Sans Book Club.
End title. Right? Actually, the first episode of that will probably be coming up after the second episode of this, even though we recorded it first. Okay. Because I'm trying to decide on, I want a constant day where we always upload that one.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know what it is yet. I just haven't picked a day.
Right.
So when I do, it'll go up.
And you'll know.
And that'll be great. Also, you'll notice that we now have these little clip-on microphones. I hope this was better than last time, because last time I noticed that if we ever moved away from the mic, it was like night and day, like being 6 inches versus a foot away. It was crazy. Yeah. And now we can like move around and be more free, and we don't have that microphone right up in the middle of the camera either. Yeah. So that's swell.
Now we just got scrunchy shirts.
Yep, scrunchy shirts are fine. I love them. I prefer my shirts scrunchy.
Yeah.
Honestly. We're also doing a D&D podcast, which might suck big dick.
Okay. How much of that are you gonna have to bleep out?
I don't know. Maybe none.
Okay.
Maybe just dick.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bleep it out again there.
Big, and then you just do the thing with the overlay with like Microsoft Sam. It's like eggs or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, do the podcasts. Hey, actually, a question as well. Should we put all of our podcasts on one channel? Or should they each have their own?
No, they should each have their own.
Because I was thinking about it, and like I listened to another great podcast, really good by the way, highly recommend you check it out. Critical Role, right? And they do their Critical Role podcast as well as a like Critical Role talk show where they talk about what happened the last week, all in the same feed.
Okay.
And for a long time, I was just, every time I got to one of the talk show the discussions, I would just skip it.
Sure.
And it wasn't really a big deal. Like, I didn't really mind.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it makes more sense, though, because they're, like, talking about things that have happened in, like, their series have crossover.
Yeah, that's true. I guess our only crossover is the fact that you and I are both in everything.
All right, yeah. Yeah,
all right, I'll do it different. I'll do it different channels. All right, hey, thanks for listening. I'm Sam.
And I'm John.
And if I'm going to jump, I'm going to commit suicide in the honor chasm. And now you give me a leaf. You have a leaf, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, jeez, I forgot.
Oh, if you didn't have
like
a leaf, I was going to have to jump right in.
My mind is foggy.
Wow.
One more try.
All right, you convinced me. Bye.